Hello, everybody. Welcome into GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, May 19th. Hope everybody had a great weekend. There is a lot to get into. Massive news in the NFL, some potential rule changes. The conference finals are set in the NBA after kind of a disappointing Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Thunder, as well as it being set in the NHL. We'll break down all of those games, all of those series coming up in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, May 19th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our first topic here today, that having to do with the Denver Nuggets being eliminated in Game 7. This was a game that was decided in the late second, early third quarter. It started off good for the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, who had Aaron Gordon playing on one hamstring. Aaron Gordon fighting through a grade 2 hamstring shows how much this team was trying to win this game. But at the end of the day, the defense of the Thunder was just too much. Nikola Jokic was held to his worst performance, and really you could say that about a lot of the Nuggets that showed up. Aaron Gordon, despite only having one hamstring that he was playing on, led his team in rebounds in the first half and overall, finishing with 11 rebounds on the night overall. But the story was the turnovers and that Thunder defense at the end of the day. That Thunder defense that had been their calling card all season long. Alex Caruso stepped up huge. They had 16 steals in this game, 23 turnovers leading to 37 points off of turnovers, and that was enough for them to pull away from this Denver Nuggets squad. The Nuggets, they really couldn't buy a bucket down the end, but at that point, it didn't matter that much because the Thunder had just so immensely outplayed them to that point. And you can talk about the depth of this Thunder team. It's something that I think is a huge part of what they do, something that makes this Thunder team as good as they are. But that defense is what powered it. They struggled in the beginning of this game. Denver came out strong. Christian Braun started off hot early on in this game. Then he kind of cooled down a bit. Nikola Jokic didn't really have his greatest night offensively, really being hounded by guys like Alex Caruso. You had Jamal Murray, who they like to be that second option, 1 for 8 from 3, finishes with 13 points. Michael Porter Jr., who struggled all series long dealing with a bit of a shoulder injury, did not have a great series. This is a Denver team that just did not show up when they needed to. They could not make their shots, and this is simply a Thunder team that did. Right, you talk about J-Dub, there was so much conversation around him specifically. After what was a disaster Game 6, he shuts up all the haters. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drops 35 points, an efficient 35 points, with only going to the free throw line 8 times. That is the type of game that we look at for the Thunder, and we say this is why this team won 68 games in the regular season. This is why this team was the best in the West now 2 years in a row. That defense is so overpowering. If they play defense like that, they can beat any team on any given night. It's not something that's going to be a guarantee. There's no doubt about that. But if they're able to go out, give their best, give their all like they did in this one, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's offense combined with Chet and J-Dub and whoever else is going to step off on any given night with how deep that team is, Alex Caruso's defensive effort is just going to be part of why this Thunder team is so dominant. The big question for this, outside of the Thunder moving on and how far they can really go, at least for me, is what is next for the Denver Nuggets? It feels like a chapter has kind of closed. Questions were asked to Jokic and to a lot of the other members of this Nuggets squad. Is the championship window still open? Jokic came out and said, we didn't win it, so it's not. Obviously, he kind of took that question a little bit differently, but his answer is not the usual one that you get, right? Jokic comes out and he says, "I don't play in hypotheticals. Basically, we didn't win it, so we couldn't have won it." The question was, could this core win a championship still? That is not the kind of answer that you want to hear from your superstar. Jamal Murray comes out and he says yes, because of course you have to say yes to that question. But I think what Jokic said was super telling about the state of this Nuggets team right now. They have fired their head coach, they have fired their GM. They do not have a draft pick in this year's draft. This is not a Nuggets team that looks like it's in shape to get another championship. And Jokic got one. That's good. You still have him, you have Jamal Murray, both on $50+ million contracts. You still have Michael Porter Jr., who I think is going to be a part of trade rumors, but he's getting paid $30 million. With the performance he put up in the playoffs, even with an injured shoulder, I doubt people are going to get him. Russell Westbrook is on a player option right now, and that's another big question for this Nuggets squad. Will they be able to get the depth back? Christian Brown is going to command $30+ million in free agency, or the Nuggets are going to have to pay him. That roster is already over $200 million. They're right up against that second apron kind of tax right there. It's not going to be easy for them to improve this team at all. And this was about as far as I think we're going to see. They got this far last year, 7 games against the Wolves, they lose. They got this far this year. They lose in 7 games to a Thunder team that kind of reminds me of the Wolves from last year, at least just a little bit. This is not a trend that I think is good for Jokic and the Nuggets. Jokic isn't getting any younger. And while he still is the best player in the world, there is reason for people to project that he won't be that forever, for much longer. And this is a Nuggets team that, like I said, does not have the kind of money, the kind of situation set up, the head coach, the GM set up, where this looks like a promising future. Now, do I think it's like Giannis where he's going to ask out? Absolutely not. He's getting paid so much money, and I don't think there is a world at all where Denver trades him, because they can still be competitive. They can be this top 4 seed in the West that makes it to the second round every single year. They can be that top 4 seed in the West that maybe occasionally can push deeper into the West, but with Victor Wembanyama getting healthier, with the Mavericks getting the first overall pick, with all of the young talent in the West, it is going to be incredibly difficult for this Nuggets team to win another championship. So you asked the question, or I posed the question, I guess, what is next for this Denver Nuggets squad? Is their window still open? No. The Denver Nuggets championship window is officially shut. And this was not the way that you wanted to go out. It was kind of felt like that for a little while, with Jokic being the engine that is keeping this team alive. We talk all the time about the non-Jokic minutes. They reared their ugly heads in this game. The Denver Nuggets just don't have the depth. And when Jokic isn't on the court, this is not a playoff team. It's incredible to say about a Nuggets team that is taking all of these great teams to 7, that is playing these tight series against the Clippers, against the Wolves last year, against the Thunder this year. This is not a Nuggets team that is good. You have the best player in the world that is carrying you with every single ounce of basketball that he has. And yet, it's not enough, because as we see in the NBA nowadays, you need more than one. And as much of a playoff riser as Jamal Murray is, he's not consistent. As good of a shooter as Michael Porter Jr. is, he's not consistent. They don't have anybody on the defensive side of the ball that you can really turn to and say, I need you to lock them down when Jokic isn't there. And even Jokic himself, not the greatest defender in the world. There are a lot of holes with this Nuggets squad. I think they found a nice head coach in David Alderman over there. He should be back. All the players seem to support him, and the core group of guys that are going to be there and continue to be a very good basketball team continue to support him, and that's important. But if the Nuggets want to keep their window open, they need to do one specific thing, and that is make a big trade for either a superstar, trade off of a big money asset that they have to sign more depth so that they can survive the non-Jokic minutes. Those are the two options that they have. I've seen things being floated around of a potential Kevin Durant trade. Now, the issue is, since they don't have any draft capital at all, like I said, no draft picks this year, what are they going to have to give up to get a guy like a Kevin Durant, an aging veteran that kind of fits their timeline a little bit more than if you were to, say, trade for a Giannis, which they're not going to trade for Giannis. They don't have the assets, they don't have the money to do that. So that one's out the question. But getting a guy who's in his late 30s, only has a couple years of really good basketball left in him, if any at all left. That's the kind of trade that they're going to make from a team like either the Celtics. Maybe this is a Nuggets team that takes a swing on a guy like Porzingis or a guy like Drew Holiday that can step up, play defense, and be a really good facilitator for them, even though that's going to be a tough spot with Jamal Murray on the floor as well. Maybe they take a swing at Kevin Durant. The Suns and the Celtics, I think, in very similar situations where they're trying to shed talent. But this is definitely a Nuggets team that if they sit on their hands this offseason and they do nothing, which they still need to find a GM first, which is huge, this is not a team that will ever win a championship with Jokic ever again. And that is tough to say because Jokic is still the greatest player in the world. There is not a single player that is alive today that is better than Nikola Jokic right now. And we can project out. Maybe Victor Wembanyama takes over. Maybe you have a guy like Anthony Edwards or Luka Doncic take over in a little bit. But right now, it's still Jokic, what he's able to do on the court, and you see his impact every single time he steps off the court immediately. That is the kind of gravity that the best player in the world has. But it's not enough to win a championship in the NBA nowadays. It really always wasn't enough to win a championship in the NBA. It's a tough league. And I think because of that, especially because of how brutal the Western Conference is, the Nuggets are going to have a really hard time getting back to the finals. And I don't think they ever win another one. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this? Do you think the Denver Nuggets ever win a championship ever again with Jokic? Do you think this core, their championship window is shut? And what do you think is the next best move for them this offseason? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the teams that are still alive in the NBA. We have two teams in the West, two teams in the East. The final four are here. There will be a new champion crowned in the NBA. That's coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.